historical events that happened, but the
Okay.
reasons behind it and how it happened, that's obviously fictional. And Marco Polo, with his relationship with his father, was kind of out there. But it's better than Lord of the Rings.
Whoa, hot take.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's comparing apples and oranges right
Yeah.
there.
We're lucky we're in separate rooms now.
Yeah.
Matt, what are you binge watching?
You know what? I haven't actually been watching too much TV right now. I've been, if anyone saw my episode earlier in the week of my Geek Week episode, I've been playing more games. But a show that I've been watching for the last few years came to an end last Friday. So I was watching that a lot to catch up and be ready for that show. And that was one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It was called Steven Universe. And, sad to see that show go, but I always say it's better to end a show when it's good rather than to continue on into obscurity.
Okay. So I wasn't going to jump in here, but I just heard that gratuitous attack on the Lord of the Rings.
Thank you.
I just had to jump in because the fact that series is 12 hours of fantastic, deep storytelling. It's one of the best series ever, and it really should not be maligned.
Yeah, let's just mention the cinematography that goes along with it.
All right, go back to your talking.
Yeah, Jim, you can leave. Matt, tell your big brother to go. We don't need to protect you here.
Next, he's going to say Harry Potter was wonderful.
Oh boy, look, you got to bring him back. He's going to come back now.
Mike, what are some of the things you're binge watching?
Oh my goodness! Well, of course, I was so excited to see Ozark's third season come back, and I finished that into 2 days, which was just amazing. The storyline just gets better and better. Jason Bateman being an executive producer does not disappoint, and I almost wish I didn't binge watch it because now I have to wait till a whole nother year for the next season to come back, and that's one of the big problems. But one of the things that I just did on CBS All Access was watch Picard. Now, Picard comes out every Thursday, week 10 series. But now that the 10th series has been out, I did watch the whole season again. So that was some serious binge in there.
There you go. I've been watching I'm a big action show kind of guy. Some of the shows I've been watching a lot of, the Chicago shows, Chicago Med.
Really?
PD.
I love Chicago PD. Chicago PD is awesome. Yeah, that shows the bar. It's when I watch the fire stuff, it's like, oh my God, stop it.
This is my city.
Yeah, this is my city.
Can't go wrong with some Hank Voight.
I would love to talk like Hank all day long, but I don't think I could do it. Maybe if I smoked about 5 packs of cigarettes a day, I could probably.
Welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout hour. And also The Walking Dead. A lot of people have dropped off that show lately, but I still like it. I think it's a great show. Action-packed, very suspenseful. For those of you that don't know, it's a zombie type of show.
Which we'll have zombies soon if we keep going at the rate we're going.
Right.
But you have to be to watch it.
Airborne, it's fine.
I mean, after I've watched, what was the season with Negan when I stopped watching after they had Negan nailed down in the warehouse or whatever his facility was. There he is. Hey, nice job. Someone's quick. So they had him pinned, and all of a sudden they're blowing everything up and whatever. And there he goes, just walking out the friggin' door. It's like, why? It just looks so. Because if anyone watched The Walking Dead, they can nail a zombie between the eyes with every shot. But when they shoot at other humans, they can't hit them. Ever watch that? They can't hit other humans. They'll waste 2 clips trying to shoot somebody, but yet they can shoot 2 zombies with 1 bullet. They're just.
Well, that's what we call plot armor.
Yeah. So I gotta. Yeah.
It's just like the old westerns that you watch when they take a 6-shooter and shoot for 3.5 hours and hit nobody.
Right. Exactly. Same thing. Back when they didn't reload. Reloading was we don't need
Right.
to show them reloading.
Right.
I don't know if you've kept up with The Walking Dead, Mike, but Negan has taken a big turn
So
to a
I am
point.
coming back.
He's actually becoming more and more likable. I won't spoil it, but
Oh no,
keep
wait.
watching.
So granted, everyone knows The Walking Dead is a comic book made into a series. And I just happen to know just a little bit about what happens. Uh, so with that being said, I understand, and I just have not gone back. Now, since we're not going to be seeing each other face to face until May or June, who knows right now, I think I'm going to find time to go back and start from when we meet Negan. I think I'll start there and then continue.
It's quite amazing the evolution of Negan. He becomes more and more likable as the episodes go on.
There you go. Without spoiling anything.
But just his personality though in the show. I think he's just hysterical. Some of the stuff he says, it just cracks you up. Certainly one of the most likable bad guys I've ever seen in a show.
Well, exactly, because he was bad and he was so good at it, and I mean, the actor alone. I mean, he's just amazing, and who doesn't love Lucille? Everyone loves
Right.
Lucille.
Oh, absolutely. And for those of you that don't know, Lucille's the bat.
The bat. That's Lucille. Yeah, good
you do,
stuff.
you do not want to get hit by Lucille. He was
No.
also
That's
the
funny.
actor Jeffrey Dean Morgan
Jeffrey
was
Dean Morgan,
also Batman's dad in one of the big Batman movies.
Help me out with that one, Matt. I don't.
Which-
Which one would that be?
Well, the most recent one was Batman versus Superman.
I forget what one it was. It was one a while ago, I believe.
It was a while ago. Maybe it was Batman Begins. Was it one of the Christian Bale ones? Do you remember?
Let's see.
I don't know.
I'll research that as our conversation progresses here.
So one of the shows that
Maybe it was Gotham. I don't know. That was a
One-
TV series though.
one of the shows that I'm sort of binge watching is called Royal Pains, and
Ooh,
I
that's
think
a
it's
good show.
yeah, it's a series from I think 2006.
Yes, it
started?
was on USA.
USA with all those other shows that you young kids watched. That USA, the CW, and all those crazy stuff. But anyways, so I found it and I started watching. So when I'm in between things, I'll watch a few episodes of that. I'm on like season 5 or 6 right now, and it's an enjoyable show. It's about a highly skilled emergency room doctor in New York. Uh, has two patients come in at the same time, and he took the one that was in the worst shape that he could save. And it just happened that wound up being some street punk, whereas the one that he let die happened to sit on the board of trustees of that hospital. So guess who got fired because he let a trustee die over a street punk? And so now he's all down, and his brother tries to cheer him up by bringing him out to the Hamptons for a party. And he winds up going out there,
Yeah.
staying, and he meets this Baron, which is pretty badass Baron, this guy. And mysterious, he becomes his personal doctor for the summer, and he lets him live in the guest house of this. I'm gonna call this a castle more than a mansion. This place is gorgeous, and the he winds up running a concierge medical practice throughout. Because no one in the Hamptons like going to the hospital, so you got to bring the doctors. They do house calls, and it's all high end stuff, and
I remember that
it's
show
pretty
now.
good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great show, good cast, some excellent cameo appearances by some big actors and athletes and so forth. Because everyone, rich and famous parties in the Hamptons in New York.
Yeah, that's a great show. I like the what's her name? Divya.
Divya, she is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
She is, I mean, just solid. She brings the real touch of class to the two brothers from Jersey, and uh, and she's the one who basically convinces Hank to do this practice, because and she's here she is a brilliant uh, physician assistant, has no ambition of being a doctor. She loves being a PA.
Yes, but
So
her character is just awesome.
yeah, yeah. I
Gr-
like where it's going now.
good acting in that show, and I don't know if you're up to this point yet, but eventually Henry Winkler is in the show.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, beyond Henry, yeah, yeah. Henry already did time in jail, and
The Five.
Whoa,
the
whoa,
five,
whoa, whoa!
the five.
Spoilers.
No spoilers, no spoilers. Everybody knows this.
Well,
Okay.
well, this show's been long retired.
Yeah, long retired. Yes, I think it
I
did.
would
I think
say
when
there's no statute of limitation on spoilers, but
it's not a spoiler. Everyone, no,
okay.
it's just part of the story because everyone knows how they don't like the dad. He's coming back in the picture. Everyone knows this. It's this the spoilers of the stuff I haven't even mentioned. I won't.
Okay, fine.
I
Look,
will.
I have to say that, otherwise people I know will be mad at me.
I
so.
will obey the no spoiler rule. I
Absolutely.
promise.
Yeah, that's a good show. I watched that when it was on air pretty much every week. Loved it. Loved it. USA has some great shows.
USA is a great lineup, and I'm glad Netflix scooped up most of their shows. It's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I was watching on US. Speaking of USA, I used to watch iRobot. Watched it for the first couple of seasons, but then it just totally lost me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
it was it was just a very confusing show for me.
a show that I always binge watch when it comes out again is the Santa Clarita Diet with Drew Barrymore. She's a realtor who becomes a zombie, a living zombie, and she has to eat brains, eat people. And I mean, she looks normal, but she's a walking dead. And the whole family's involved, and they wind up killing people. And it's hysterical. It's a comedy. Santa Clarita Diet. That's on
Sounds
Netflix.
nuts.
It is nuts. It is such dry humor that you actually laugh out loud at. It's really cool.
Oh, so I just found he was Jeffrey Dean Morgan from The Walking Dead was Batman's dad in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice,
Okay, yeah.
2016. So there you go.
Wow, that was a long time for that one.
I know, I know. I
It's
was
okay.
trying.
That movie's
You know
not
what?
very good.
If you want to look up something, go to IMDb as far as acting's
the
concerned. I was
best.
trying to go to all these other sites. Of
No, you
pictures.
can't do
Doesn't
that.
work. IMDb. That's where
It's
you'll
the
find
best.
everything.
I mean, yeah, if you're looking for what an actor is in, IMDb is good. Wikipedia is also good because they tend to have the full filmography of actors.
Who's is anybody watching any documentaries?
Actually, I watched a great documentary with my wife yesterday.
And if you say it's Tiger King, I'm gonna kill you.
No, it was the Taylor Swift documentary.
Yeah,
was-
that's
It was really good, really good.
supposed to be amazing. I heard good things about that.
Yep, and I've seen Taylor live. I gotta admit, I'm a Swiftie, big fan. But the
That's a
documentary was
thing.
good.
Is that a thing? Is that? I bet you were a believer too.
Oof.
Hey, I'm
you
down
gonna-
with the Biebs.
Oh,
I got no problem with the Biebs.
Yeah. that's what I thought.
at, at least he's maturing. He used to do a lot of stupid stuff, but he's maturing now. And speaking of my wife, she commented some shows that she watches. She's got Miss Americana, The Good Doctor, New Amsterdam, Manifest, and For Life. For Life's a great show. It's about a guy who owned a club, and he ended up getting arrested because there was drugs being sold in his club, and it was no fault of his own. This guy wasn't doing anything, and he goes to prison. And he essentially becomes a lawyer in prison to try to defend himself, but in the process, he's defending other inmates in their cases to try to build up credit so he could go to court and defend himself. Very interesting show. We were binge watching that the other day. Excellent show. I forget what network it's on since we DVR everything, but For Life, very good show.
People still DVR? I didn't know
We
that.
oh, absolutely. I barely watch commercials. DVRing is what it's all about. I
Oh, 'cause you
DVR
fast
everything.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
I
right,
mostly
well,
just watch
whatever.
YouTube ads.
Yeah. CBS All Access ads. You have to watch those. It's terrible. Um, there was a show that I started to watch when it first came out. I forget what year it was. Community,
I've heard of
Oh
that.
yeah,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen
Yeah.
the beginning of that.
and I just got all excited that my Netflix showed up. That Community is now on Netflix. It's like, oh my goodness! I watched the show. And that's when things were weekly scheduled on television, and I started, but it's like I don't make time to specifically say, "Oh, this is on today. I'm gonna go watch it." So now that it's on here, this is my next binge.
And there you go. There's a shot of For Life there. Uh,
Oh yeah,
the actor in it is terrific, and actually 50 Cent, the rapper, is one of the executive producers of it.
Oh,
there you
cool.
go.
So great show, 50 Cent, if you're watching.
Bob, what else? Bob, what else are you watching?
That'd be crazy.
No, I don't watch much of anything. I mean, I watch TV in the evenings. Mainly it's PBS stations that I watch.
Do you like the on the PBS? Do you like the British stuff, or do you like the
Yes.
American? You like the British?
Yeah, that's basically what we watch. I mean, I obviously started because Jane likes to watch that, and there were some shows, but I watched that Sanditon. That was pretty interesting, where they
Yeah.
were trying to open a resort on the beach, but it showed how, for example, there was one interesting, I found it interesting anyway, that when the ladies went to the beach, they went into a cart, and the cart, they changed their clothes in the cart, and
Yep.
then a donkey pulled the cart out into the water. Then they could get out of the cart and go down the ladder and step into the water.
Step into the water.
And then they would get back in the cart when they were finished, and the donkey would pull the cart back up on the beach. Then they would change their clothes and come out. On the other side of the beach, the men were throwing their clothes in the air and running in the water.
Yeah. Yep.
Good
Good old
times
double
in the old
standards.
days.
Good.
Bob, were you a Walker Texas Ranger fan?
Oh, I know. I mean, I saw him, but that was a long time ago.
I remember that show.
Oh, I love
Chuck
that
Norris.
show. It's Chuck Norris. That's all you got to
Yep.
say. I mean,
Yep.
he'll
I like it.
roundhouse kick you.
I like you to meet my twin boys. That's Walker. That one's Texas Ranger.
I still watch it sometimes. It's on country music television here and there.
Oh,
Yeah.
CMT. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
So you should watch Me TV. You've got all the old ones on there if you're interested in those old
Oh,
ones.
sure.
I love
Start
the
off
old
with
shows.
like Leave It to Beaver and I Love Lucy and
Mr. Ed.
I mean, I used to watch I Love Lucy when I was a kid, but Magnum PI,
Oh yeah,
Walker Texas Ranger. There was a show called Kung Fu back in the day.
Oh yeah, of course, with
Yeah.
David Carradine. Absolutely.
Right.
My grandfather got me into all these shows. I love them.
Snatch
Hey.
that pebble from my hand.
yeah.
Grasshopper. Um, and I
Nash
watch. You mentioned me. I love Emergency and Adam 12.
Yeah, they're on there. Yeah.
They're on there. Yeah. Gotta love it.
Oh, great stuff. Can't go wrong with the classics.
Yeah, but right now on BBC channel, they show most of the Star Treks. So if you're into Star Treks, they start with, well, they're doing Next Generation and
Yep.
what is it, Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
So
one
they've
of
got
the.
plenty of Star Trek on there.
All right, here's a good question for everyone. What services do you use to do your watching? I mean, what other than regular TV or cable? What streaming services do you use?
Netflix here and there. That's about the only one. I've watched stuff on Hulu at my parents' house before, but the one I personally have at home is Netflix. And then, of course, Xfinity, I watch most of the stuff on.
Yep. What do you do, Matt?
I have Netflix, but I don't really use it anymore. I used to use it a lot a few years ago and back in college. I have Hulu that I got free with my Spotify subscription, but mostly I just use that to watch my favorite movie, The Count of Monte Cristo.
Very cool.
Yeah, most of what I watch is on YouTube, honestly. So I just use that.
How about you, Bob?
I've been using that a few times. Tubi, Tubi. That's an app that I have with
Oh, okay.
Comcast, and they have assortments of movies on there. Most of them are pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think they're like B or C grade movies, but it's a nice change to see. It makes you appreciate some of the movies that are produced in the United States as opposed to the ones that are produced in Australia or former Czechoslovakia or someplace like that, where and they're not subtitled, so it's pretty
Oh, that's
interesting
good.
sometimes.
Are they dubbed? Is the voices dubbed?
No, no,
Oh,
they're mostly British
yep.
voices, but some of them I forget the guy's name. Who's the new James Bond?
Oh,
Yeah,
Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Craig.
Yeah.
Daniel
yeah,
Craig.
yeah.
There was one of his series on there. I think it's called I don't know something about the sword, but he's a British officer, and he's every week he's in a different scenario that he can't get out of, and then all of a sudden he does, and move on to next week.
Yeah, I love BBC television. I use first off, I think the Brits make the best television, and don't laugh at that because when
No,
you
it's true. It's
it
true.
is it is true, and you see a lot of American shows that were British shows. You know, The Office. Here's a great example. The Office. That
You
was a British show.
Shameless. I watch.
Shameless.
That's one of
Yeah.
the shows that I watch here. I
Oh my
didn't see the
God.
British version yet, but I certainly got
British versions. I mean, I see 2 seasons of the British version.
Whose
Well,
line
what
is it
I see
anyway?
when I oh sorry,
Yeah.
what I see when I watch those shows, I'm getting because I've watched so many of them now. One of the first things I do is try and point out, oh wait, I saw that actor in this one, and I saw that
Yes.
actor in this one. I think they only have about 50 actors in Britain, and they all change
Yeah.
roles.
Basically-
Right, and I think they go to Australia too.
And they all have American. They all have amazing American accents whenever they're doing anything American for some
Right.
reason.
What were you
That's
saying,
right.
Matt?
No, I don't think I was saying anything.
I thought you said. Anyways, so if you like BBC or British shows or Australian, there's a service called Acorn,
Oh yeah,
and that is just incredible. One of my favorite shows to binge is Doc Martin, and about
sure.
this surgeon that uh, brilliant surgeon in London who now gets a phobia for blood.
Yeah.
Anytime he sees blood, he throws up or passes out or whatever. So he winds up becoming a general practitioner in this little seaside town called Port Wen. And
But what I like the most about that, Mike, is his bedside manner. He's always so
you mean the
nice and
lack of,
pleasant to his
yeah, the lack of bedside manner. He is straight and to the point, and it's an awesome show. Um, a great, well done. Now, you know the show, right, Bob?
Yes.
You got to see the movies. There were
I
two
haven't seen the
movies.
movies.
Yeah, there's 2 movies before it became a series, and
Ah,
he's not acting the same as he does in the series. And it's the same actor. I forget his name now. He's in everything. So British television, Acorn. I wound up signing up for CBS All Access because of Picard. I got Disney Plus because of Mandalorian. Um,
I need to watch that.
yeah. I'll send you my password. Oh, can we? Send
My brother has
Your
it
brother has
covered,
it.
so
I tell you, and I got it for free because I'm a Verizon customer. So that
oh nice.
that worked out. So Disney Plus, Hulu, which I think my daughter she uses that the most. They got all my sign-ons, and of course Prime Video.
One thing I've been debating is if I should get YouTube Red for this show. But
Well, yes, yeah,
I've seen the first 2 episodes. They had them
yeah, they
for
set them up
free.
free to tease you.
And I almost bought it, but I'm like, there's nothing else on YouTube Red except this show.
A
Yeah,
friend
there
of
really
mine-
isn't. As someone who loves YouTube and watches a lot, and a lot of the channels I follow have YouTube Red shows. There's nothing that even appeals to me.
Right, I hear YouTube TV, which is different, is a lot better.
I
A
don't
friend
know
of mine
anything about
has that. He has that instead of cable. But Cobra Kai, a friend of mine gave me this pirate site or whatever, and I watched the whole season of Cobra Kai. And the spoiler at the end, not to spoil, I'm saying the ending, the season finale
Well,
was phenomenal.
we should tell people what it's about just in case they don't know.
Yeah, Cobra Kai is the series of the Karate Kid from the '80s with Ralph Macchio and swept the leg. What's the kid's name there?
Johnny.
Uh, Johnny. Yeah. So it's basically them 40 years later, right? 40, yeah, about 40 years later, and it's all a you see where their lives went.
And Johnny's actually more likable in the show than
Of
Danny.
course he is. Everyone likes him. Danny's a tool, you know. He's like he became very successful, and he treats everyone like crap, you know.
Yep.
And he's always jumping to conclusions. And Johnny, who was the big rich kid, whatever, is still driving the same Trans Am,
Yep.
and he's just not making. He's barely making it. You know, he's got what, a can of beer in the fridge and some expired uh, toaster rolls or something. It's he's
Well,
the
what
kid.
did he do with all those cars that Mr. Miyagi gave him?
So he's
He
still
waxed them too much.
he,
Yeah.
no. I think he still has those cars. But anyways, it's a great story, and I was looking for. I haven't started season 2 yet, but I'm waiting for another way to find it.
Is there a sensei in this one?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
It
we have
can't. You spoil the whole thing because each episode you get something new, and it basically, if I mention something like that, it'll spoil it for people. So yeah, it's basically the boys 40 years later, one's successful, one's not, and they meet up again.
we have a comment from our good friend John Ritz.
Yeah.
He says Jane favors all things British. Acorn,
Acorn,
Bird Box, PBS. I've been binging animated shorts on YouTube, usually 10 minutes or less each, comedies and sci-fi themes. Thanks for reaching out, John. So there you go. There's somebody else that likes the British programming, Mike.
I tell you,
Oh,
it is
there's Meena.
incredible. And Meena's here, and Jim is. Oh, look at that!
Hello.
Look at Jim. Jim is not in the studio, people.
Yes,
I-
he is.
We
Come
can't let
on.
that happen. He is not really in the studio.
I might be in the studio. You don't
Yeah.
know.
Can you
That's
green
good.
screen a different scene behind you every show?
I can. But you know what? Honestly, I started thinking about it. So this is my second choice.
He uses that when he's on his school meetings.
You're not supposed
And
to be
this is
there
my
either.
third choice.
Get some fresh air.
That's all I got so far. All right, we ready to transition now, you guys?
Yeah, Matt, why don't you tell us what's coming up, and then we'll set it to Jim, and we have Meena Bharath joining us on the show. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Real quick. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Still? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure because I just went to a different window. We have a lot planned for next week's Hangout Hours. We're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to be talking about, we want to know our viewers, what are they cooking? And also, what are you guys reading? What are you doing to pass the time? We're going to be talking with Heather Bachman from the Public Library. We're going to be talking with Laurel Coolbaugh and Amy Beck and Maureen and Aaron Belger about the Edible Book Festival that they had to do online this year instead of in person. And we're going to be talking with Margie Wiggin and Kelly Grill as well, and a few other people too. That's all we have planned.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
No problem.
And now, Meena, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's great to be here and seeing all of you people.
All
And
right.
Mike and Tom and Bob and Matt. Great to see you all.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Given everything, I think I'm
Mhm.
doing pretty well. Thank you.
Mhm.
How about you?
We're doing all right. We're
I
doing
like
okay.
your studio background.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of happy with it too. Mike was poking fun of me. He was trying to green screen yesterday, so I figured I had to beat him to it, or else he would be first.
Mhm.
All right, so Meena, we were hoping to chat for a few minutes about all things school committee, and it's been an unbelievable year. Who could have ever predicted when this year actually started that we would be ending this way? And yesterday we had a chat with Alan and Evan, and then we had a chat with Carol, how they're handling things there. But I was kind of wondering, you are the chair of the school committee, and from your perspective, how have things been going, and what have you guys been doing behind the scenes?
It's been a lot to take in, to be honest, like for everyone else. But certainly on the school front, I think it's been a lot more because all with the school out and closed, it's been very challenging for parents, for administration, for teachers to make the kinds of decisions that have gone in. So a lot of our work, really, for me personally, has been about processing information, information about COVID-19 itself, what that means, what is it that's happening in our town through our health department, through Casey Morrow's posts on Facebook. Also, just keeping abreast with what Desi has to say. Of course, that's the primary work of Dr. Kavanaugh, but we want to stay tuned in as well, listening to our legislative members, some of the work that's going on, what the governor has to say, what our president has to say. So there is that level of information to process. And then there is another level of information and pain, if you will, to process from families, from students, from staff, from teachers, bus drivers, or janitors. So it's been a lot of information to process to begin with. So this is unprecedented, clearly. Um, and I don't think there were any rule books written to handle such a situation. Obviously, we've all been caught a little unprepared, underprepared. I think we all prepare, we have emergency preparedness at every level, but I don't think, at least I wasn't prepared, that we wouldn't have the ability to even go out and meet people. So I think that's been challenging. So from that perspective, it's been a lot of processing of that information. And from there on, it's been about supporting our administration. Dr. Kavanaugh, she has been working 24/7. It's not easy. These decisions are not easy. Everyone, wants some of these resolved as of yesterday. And there are times I do too. But the fact is, we have to be patient and we need to give time. And these are human beings making these decisions. They have the same worries we do about groceries, about jobs, about their health, about their loved ones' health, their parents. So I think we all have that in common, and yet we have to function. So it's been a lot about understanding, having that mindset, patience. So it's been a lot around all of that, but also information sharing. A lot of parents are reaching out, which I think is great. Most of the parents are very understanding and supportive. They reach out with, we understand this is difficult. Here's a question. And so it's been a lot about answering that question. And sometimes parents write a little, in an angrier tone. And I'm okay with that too, because at this point in time, everybody's having a difficult time. There's fear of job loss. There are mothers who are working from home and managing the education of 3 kids and trying to figure that out with teachers. Teachers are mothers too, or fathers, as the case may be. So I think it's a very complex situation we are in, and certainly not something we thought of. Right in the beginning of this, I was so excited that we had passed a budget of an 8.26% increase. That was huge. That was a huge achievement because of the growth, because of the conversations that we had been having through the Budget Advisory Council, through advocacy, working with our town partners, with the Select Board, with Mr. Kamala. But we didn't have a moment to even breathe that in and kind of take that moment of 6 months of budget work. And we've been hit with this. So it's been a lot. So there is certainly a lot of aspects here.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm wondering, it's a pretty big committee that you have. Have you split up any areas of responsibility, or is everyone kind of paying attention to what's going on and bringing what they know to the table, and then you kind of discuss it all together?
So in general, with the school committee, we are bound by the open meeting law. So all of our work has to happen, or any kind of decisions happen through the open meeting law. The first thing we do is through the agenda setting process, if you will. And both myself and our vice chair, Nancy Kavanaugh, we work with Dr. Kavanaugh in setting up the agenda. So one of the first decisions we had in front of us was about the meetings themselves, the school committee meetings. And we were so glad you were also helpful in, making sure that we get telecast. Even with Zoom, it's amazing how flexible you guys are. And just getting through that process, let's come to some normalcy. Now, in terms of splitting up work, the way the school committee is set up is we do have some subcommittees that we are already working on. So those responsibilities have remained. We haven't yet identified any new areas to work on. We're also waiting a little bit, at least I am, waiting for some cues from Dr. Kavanaugh. I mean, we have offered support. We have offered our availability for any kind of emergency meetings or any kind of decision making that needs to be made to be there. But beyond that, there are no new responsibilities as such that we have carved out as a result of COVID-19. I did kind of ask a little bit to see if we need any kind of um, group that brings in some of the parent voices, if you will, into some of the decisions that are being made. At the same time, one needs to be very, very mindful of the work that's going in and the stress and pressure. And I also like to wait a little bit to hear what support is needed rather than just trying to jump in and say, okay, here we are, here's something, and what have you. We have very, very smart, capable professionals. So we are watching all of that. So we haven't really done any new committee assignments as such.
Mm. And not just on this particular example, it makes me kind of wonder, which I've never wondered before, as the leader of the school committee, is there any kind of consortium of school committees? Do you have any type of interaction or communication where you can all share best practices and knowledge and stuff like that? Or is every school committee for every town a body just unto itself?
So there is a consortium. It's actually a very active consortium. It's called the Massachusetts Association of School Committee that we are a part of. They have fabulous support. Any questions that you have, any best practices. In fact, a lot of our policies come from MASC. We're able to model them after MASC and then kind of localize it. There is also an effort that was made by Representative Dykema to create a MetroVis consortium. So we are able to get in touch with folks in Holliston, for instance, or Framingham. So I certainly stay in touch with some of these people, and I never hesitate to call MASC if I have a question. Last week, for instance, there was some request to meet a certain deadline of April 1st related to some paperwork that we had to submit. Related to the Student Opportunity Act. And I felt that in a time of this pandemic, where we are just trying to understand how to even do our daily functions, to expect that we can fill some paperwork, seek feedback from the community, and expect the community to focus on a new initiative doesn't make sense. And so I didn't hesitate to call the MASC person who's the executive director there, and he was very kind enough to walk me through and say, you don't have to worry, it's just that it's taking time to push out some of these deadlines. So there is a lot of support on that front. Another thing I want to say, Jim, is that many times I feel that the role of the chair is a little exaggerated. I think all of our members, all 5 of us, are on equal footing. As the chair, my primary role is to have an agenda for the meeting that we have, which runs smoothly, the school committee meeting. And of course, where the task has been assigned by the committee to me, those tasks I give due diligence and follow them through. And I think that kind of responsibility exists with every school committee member. For instance, we have a policy working group which consists of our members Jen Devlin and Amanda Fargiano. And both of them, the committee has rested that power with them, so they work on it. And so if there's something that's assigned to the chair, I work on it. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I was wondering if um, you could talk about the impacts that this situation is having on the school year. Does it have any impacts on? I mean, you just finished the budget for next year, and then this happens. And I know Carol was talking a little bit yesterday. There were some areas where there will be less expenditure needed, such as heating. Um, but there are other areas such as technology that have greater needs. Is this going to cause any type of reconsideration of, I don't know if you could change the number at this point, but like where resources will be allocated going forward?
That's a conversation we have had. And the fact of the matter is that, so there is this year, right, the FY20, which ends on June 30th. So some of the cost savings around that exist even for this year. And in this year, there were some things we had planned for and committed to. So there are those aspects. And then, of course, for next year, what we had planned, um, what I have suggested is it was actually passed by both the school committee and select board. So the budget is truly in the hands at the moment with the appropriations committee, right? Um, with the ATM, the annual town meeting pushed out and the elections pushed out, we have additional time to think through all of this all over again. My suggestion has been more around, again, just one voice of the 5-member committee is to create a possible what if scenarios rather than just rewriting what we have done already. If we just came up with certain situations, we know that state taxes, the sales taxes are down. So state aid will likely get impacted. So you have to think in terms of revenue as well as expenditure. So from that perspective, but we don't know, we don't have the clarity yet, right? So without the clarity, it doesn't make sense to adjust the original budget. My suggestion would really be to look at some what if scenarios. And if everything goes well, we can stick to our original plan and trash the what ifs. It doesn't hurt us to put it in the bin. But I do think that being prepared is helpful rather than scrambling in the last minute. Again, these are thoughts I have shared uh, with both Dr. Kavanaugh and our Director of Finance, as well as the Select Board and Appropriations Committee. And again, I'm just one voice. We have to think collectively. We have to think about readiness and timelines which are reasonable and what are the guidelines for these scenarios. So all of that is in consideration.
Okay. And I know that Bob was thinking about something he wanted to ask you.
Sure.
I mean, it's Bob Hamilton.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah. I just wondered if you had any information about, I like to be optimistic. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be over in another month and the kids are going to get back to school. Do you have any idea how long it will take the school to get back up to speed? I know that most of the buses are still there. The drivers are still around. Obviously the teachers are still there. Maintenance is still going on. But if it goes on longer than that, there may be a problem getting restarted. But do you have any idea if it can be, okay, on May 4th, everybody go
Okay.
back
So
to
we just
school?
lost his microphone. Let's see. Oh, all right. So I think, Meena, I think you got the gist of that question.
I do. Thank you, Bob, for looking forward and being optimistic. I would love for that scenario to happen that we are in fact able to open at that time frame. Unfortunately, I do not have any my own full understanding of that. That's a question better answered by Dr. Kavanaugh because she is in the operational mode. And to your point, we have everyone at the moment, still available and around. I think there will be challenges, based on what we are seeing in terms of, I've read about this in general, right? That even if things were opened up, will people get out of their worry and step out? So I think there are some of those challenges. And when we talk about that, those people who worry, they need not just be families and children. They might be any of our custodial staff. It might be our teachers. It might be anybody. So I think we will need to be mindful and plan for that. But that's a good question for me to take back to our committee, Bob, and think about it and ask Dr. Kavanaugh also.
Okay,
Thank
next,
you.
I think, thank you for that, Meena. I think Mike had something he wanted to say.
I mean,
Hi, Mike.
I too am an optimist like Bob, and believe that this will be over and we'll be back to normal, so on and so forth. But now that town meeting is pushed out to June, what will that do with the plans for the trailers at Elmwood Hopkins and the Hopkinton High School addition? How badly is that going to affect us as far as being ready for next year's students?
So again, at this point in time, we haven't looked at any change in plans there, Mike. But I think these are also again priorities we need to look at and plan for. At our meeting on the 13th, we had actually gone ahead and looked at, our roof work, and there was a bid that was received. So the school committee had voted to move forward with that, provided things get approved at the town meeting and in the town election as well. So we have been moving forward on those things with an optimistic view right now. But I think all of these things are going to come back as we uncover the next steps. I mean, I was, I don't know whether I would say use the word surprise, but where we had thought of the April 7th timeframe, I think rather than waiting until closer to that date, our governor had given that directive of May
I,
4th.
I think we lost. Oh, there she is. There you are, Meena. We lost you for a
Okay.
second.
Okay. So I do think that at this point, we are moving forward with these plans as they are. And I think there are priorities, obviously, all around. And as we move further and further in, there are things that we would be looking at and looking to resolve and plan accordingly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I can't hear you, Jim. I'm sorry.
Jim, we can't hear you.
Well, it looks like we lost Jim's audio. Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Meena, are you still with us?
I am. I can
All
hear
right. It looks like we lost Jim's mic, and I think his picture just
Okay,
froze.
can you hear me
there
now?
There he is.
Hey, there you are.
Hello.
Having
Uh,
trouble at the studio?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Meena, I was wondering if we could switch gears and talk about something else for a quick minute.
you. Sure.
I'm wondering, how is regular business going? What has the school committee been working on? You do a lot of policy reviews, you do a lot of planning and oversight. What's happening?
So we actually have about nearly 30 um, identified committees, liaison roles that all of the school committee members work on. So, of course, some of those are somewhat halted at the moment. When some of the meetings get canceled, people are not able to attend those meetings. But the ones that I have been working on are related to procedures. So, one of the things that when I came on board on the school committee, I found is that a lot of the knowledge of how things are done by the school committee are in the minds of people. And the knowledge resides with people. And it's not documented for someone brand new like myself to understand. How do I even get an item on the school committee agenda, for instance? How am I to know that? And so I would have to go and ask someone, and they would walk me through that. So what we have tried to do is we created a procedures work group, and we have been writing, documenting procedures. So the school committee has several responsibilities, but at a high level, the one that we are responsible for. One is policies, second is budget, and the third is the superintendent evaluation. Um, of course, all of this ultimately having to affect student achievement and their welfare. So we decided that at least some of these, if we can start documenting. So it's me and Amanda Fargiano who have been working on the procedure documentation. So we have been looking at the superintendent evaluation process. So we looked at the processes in the past and some best practices, and just looking at what MASC recommends, the Massachusetts Association of School Committee. And we just completed the final version of the procedure, which we are planning to bring back to the school committee. What I have been working on is, having seen the budget process more closely this year in my role and participating in the Budget Advisory Council this past year, I've just put together a brainstorm picture on how the budget process works, so that it becomes clear in terms of what are some of the inputs going into a process and what's the output. So some of that work. I like having clear goals and things, especially in times like this, to keep focusing on the work that needs to be done. So that's something I'm working on. Another thing, as we talked about a little bit earlier, just one of the responsibilities that falls on the school committee chair by assignment is being the spokesperson for the school committee. And as emails come in from parents responding to that, one of the areas that I have heard most from our challenges with for families who have students with special needs, and some of the challenges they're having with adapting to the new technology and the new methodology. So being able to gently advocate for some of that, I do think our administrative team already has their eyes on it. Not just this, every other aspect. So there is some of that work going on as well.
There is so much work going on, so many things, and you're focusing on the budget, which I'm sure is huge. I don't know, can a person even hold that whole budget in their head? My question is, Meena, why did you want to be on the school committee? What's your passion?
Um, so I may have mentioned this to you at some point when we initially met, Jim. Um, there was a turning point in my life. I was chasing wealth and success in my life, and my father passed away 4 years ago now. And when he passed away, it was a moment for me to think about life and what is it that I love, and pursuing my passion. And what I have been most passionate about is education. And the reason why it's education is, I feel like if we do it right, if we do a good job of education and giving the right values and creating a nurturing environment for our young people, I think the future would be beautiful. And I have come to understand that the majority of our students choose the public education system. And this is the place to make it right. And I feel like this is my third year on the school committee. And it's not, there are already fabulous, fantastic people working in this area. But your voice does make a difference. And I think my voice made a difference in the past 3 years through advocacy. Sometimes I have struggled to make my voice heard. But that's part of the process. But I think it's been all good in terms of just small changes. And you feel fulfilled by it.
That's great. And if you could talk about for a minute, we just have a couple of minutes left. Is there an area of the Hopkinton Public Schools that you really champion, that you really see as an area for growth, or has some other personal value to you that has a lot of meaning?
That's a very interesting question, and perhaps something I can share there in terms of new information from my end. One of the areas that I feel, not just in Hopkinton, but in many school districts, we don't talk about enough are these kids who are deemed or called labeled as gifted and talented. Now, it's a label. These are just kids who have needs and who have certain skills that are much deeper, and they're a little advanced than their chronological peers, if you will. So that is something that I've been passionate about. I do think there are districts sees that and has some plans. Yet at a state level, also there is no guideline in Massachusetts around it. There are many other states that do a lot of work in that area. The aspect of it that bothers me or concerns me the most is that when these children don't meet the challenge that is appropriate to them, they don't understand what failure looks like. Everyone must understand what failure and challenge looks like to be able to work hard, to learn those skills of consistency, to apply themselves, to see the importance of falling down and getting back up. They learn it too late in life. So those life skills are needed for these kids. So that's something, it's very hard for people to understand when you don't see a child like that many times, because you think, what are you talking about? These kids got it, they're fine. But they're very good at covering up too. They have needs, they have social, emotional needs, which are not well understood. So, in that regard, I've actually been talking about it or championing it at various levels. And someone had recommended my name to serve on an advisory council. So, I recently got appointed to the Gifted and Advisory Council to DESE by Commissioner Riley. That's a 3-year term. So I'm looking forward to that work now.
Wow, that's really cool. And that's just really cool. I think about that all the time with my children. Nobody wants to see their children suffer. And at the same time, so many people in life who face great obstacles and great challenges are some of the coolest and the best people around, because that enriches and that deepens them. Well, I am really glad that you joined us for this half hour, and I hope you'll be back soon. We are right up against the time that we have to close. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure. Lovely seeing all of you. It's great to see all of you in one screen. So stay well and staying optimistic.
All right. All right. And thank you all for joining us here on the Hangout Hour. We'll see you on Monday with new episodes. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.